Thank you very much, Tánaiste. Deputy Chambers, yours is question 78.
Tánaiste, my question is to ask you for an update on the Brexit negotiations, and in particular the situation with regards to the draft withdrawal agreement, and if you'll make a statement on the matter, Tánaiste.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy. Last week the British Government agreed a draft withdrawal agreement together with the outline of a political declaration on the future relationship with the EU task force team led by Michel Barnier. This was a very significant and very welcome breakthrough in the Brexit process. An extraordinary European Council summit will be held on the 25th of November, next Sunday, so that the agreement, together with the political declaration, which will be a much bigger document by then than it is or than it was last week, can be endorsed. A preparatory meeting of the General Affairs Council, which I attended, was held yesterday. EU and UK negotiators have worked intensively over a long period to achieve this, and I would offer them all my congratulations and thanks for the work that they've done. In particular, Michel Barnier and his team have demonstrated extraordinary commitment and understanding. This outcome would not have been achieved without the unity and solidarity of our EU member states and institutions. The draft agreement, notably the protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland, does meet Ireland's objectives. Vitally, it protects the Good Friday Agreement in all its parts and the gains of the peace process. Importantly, nothing in the agreement will prejudice the constitutional status of Northern Ireland and the principle of consent as set out in the Good Friday Agreement. The withdrawal agreement translates the UK's political commitment to avoiding a hard border on the island of Ireland into a legal guarantee. It provides for a backstop that will apply unless and until another solution is agreed. This means that there will be no hard border in any circumstances. Although I do want to say that we hope the backstop will never be used and that we can resolve the border issues comprehensively through a future relationship which is both comprehensive and generous. It underpins, in a dynamic way, continuing North-South cooperation and an all-island economy. It provides for the maintenance of the common travel area and protects the provisions of the Good Friday Agreement on rights, safeguards and equality of opportunity. It also confirms that Irish citizens in Northern Ireland will continue to enjoy the rights of EU citizens. The withdrawal agreement also provides for a period of transition, which can be extended, in which preparation can be made for the future relationship between the EU and the UK. We are committed to working with the United Kingdom and our EU partners to secure a future relationship that is both deep and comprehensive. Once the European Council has given its endorsement to the agreement, it will be for the British and European Parliaments to consider and approve it in according to their respective procedures. And we'll have a 4-hour debate on this issue tomorrow. With the opportunity to vote at the end of that debate on the detail of the draft agreement that I've referred to.
Chambers.
Thank you, Tánaiste, and we very much welcomed that debate, which we had also requested. Tánaiste, Fianna Fáil welcomed the draft withdrawal agreement between the UK Government and the EU, and as I said, the withdrawal agreement that was announced, it does represent a positive step towards a potential deal. However, its ratification is not a certainty. And Fianna Fáil has been accused by you, Tánaiste, and members of your party of playing politics with Brexit. And this is simply not the case. And as you know, Tánaiste, we have been generally very supportive of government's negotiating position on Brexit and have never sought to undermine the national position. We have put on the green jersey, so to speak, and have been advocating for the least damaging Brexit possible for the island of Ireland. And whilst the government may not like it, it is our responsibility, and indeed our right as the main opposition's party, to ask questions. Difficult as they may be at times for the government, we will continue to ask those questions, and we will not apologise for holding government to account, particularly when it comes to one of the gravest threats that this state has ever faced. So, Tánaiste, I know that you met with Michel Barnier yesterday. I would appreciate if you could update this House on the content of that meeting and what was discussed. And my final question at this point, Tánaiste, it is a draft agreement. Do you envisage there being any changes to the withdrawal agreement as it is currently drafted? Is there room for manoeuvre?
Thank you, Deputy Chambers. Tánaiste.
Just a couple of questions there and comments. I mean, first of all, I have repeatedly, Deputy, thanked both Fianna Fáil and other parties in this House for the support that they've given to the government's negotiating position on Brexit. I think that political unity in Ireland has been a key factor in allowing us to take clear positions that have subsequently resulted in achieving solidarity across the European Union and have played an important part in helping us to get a wording across the line that protects core Irish interests. And I would say that again today. In relation to the text, first of all, you know, it's only a draft text in that it's waiting for it to be approved by the European Council, but this is a text that has been agreed between the negotiating teams. It has been agreed by the British government. So to that extent, it's not a draft text. It is now the text. And it's not going to be reopened. And I think one of the things that was very clear from the General Affairs Council meeting yesterday was that while there are some issues that the Spanish minister outlined his concerns about in relation to Gibraltar, everybody who contributed to that debate made it quite clear that while of course we want those issues addressed, that the text should not be changed now. It's taken 2 years to put that draft withdrawal agreement together. It's sensitive, it's difficult. It is a compromise on both sides, by the UK and by the EU, trying to accommodate each other's concerns. It's a balanced text that I believe is good for the United Kingdom as a whole and protects against core Irish concerns in terms of mitigating against potential damage. So I don't believe that will change, and it's not open for change. What will change is the political declaration around the future relationship, which was a 7-page short sort of skeleton document, if you like, last week. That will become a 20-page document, maybe slightly longer even. And we hopefully will see the wording of that either later this evening or tomorrow. And that we know that Theresa May is planning to travel to Brussels tomorrow to meet Jean-Claude Juncker, presumably to talk about the final wording of that future relationship declaration in the build-up to a summit on Sunday, which I hope can be successful for both sides.
Deputy Chambers.
Clarify that this is the text, because obviously comments in the House of Commons last week that this was not the final agreement and that certain aspects were only temporary, I suppose speaks to the political situation in the UK rather than maybe the tone of the conversation between the two teams. I think it is important to say that there is no such thing as a good Brexit. And the withdrawal agreement does contain, however, the necessary protections and precautions to avoid a hard border on the island of Ireland. It does uphold the Good Friday Agreement, particularly the first line in the Northern Ireland Protocol, which I think was necessary and very well received, and the continuance of North-South cooperation. Under the terms of the deal, or the draft text, it does effectively give Northern Ireland special economic status, I believe, broadly in line with what we as a party first proposed over 2 years ago. Taoiseach, given the difficulties that the British Prime Minister now faces and I suppose the divisions within her own party and across the Commons, you also mentioned the situation in Spain in relation to Gibraltar and that there's issues there in relation to the text around that particular aspect of it. Taoiseach, what happens in the event that the withdrawal agreement is rejected by the House of Commons? What is the plan of the Irish Government? And what is the plan of the EU negotiating team in that event? And I mean, what actually happens the next day? What is the timeline? What is plan B if that happens? And I know we'll know in a very short period of time.
Thank you, Deputy.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, first of all, I think it's important to say that Brexit is not our policy. We've never agreed with it. We regret that the United Kingdom has made the decision through a referendum to leave the European Union. But, you know, in fact, before that decision was made, this country was planning for how we would need to respond to protect core Irish interests and, of course, to protect British-Irish relations in the context of Brexit. And last week was an important step forward on that in terms of getting a text agreed, but there's still a long way to go on this. Even if the withdrawal treaty, and I hope it will be, is ratified on Sunday, is supported on Sunday by EU leaders and is subsequently supported in the House of Commons. Of course, we still have a future relationship to negotiate, which is going to take the next 2 to 3 years, at least, I think. So this is a process where Ireland will continue to have to be vigilant and to try to mitigate against unintended consequences of the fallout of Brexit. Deputy, one of the things I would say is that, you know, I think a lot of people have been far too quick to start jumping past when the Parliament in Westminster makes a decision, assuming the worst. I don't think we should do that. I think we should spend the next couple of weeks explaining to people, reassuring people as to what is in the deal. We've spent 2 years putting it together. It's a good deal for Ireland. It's a good deal for the UK, and it's a good deal for the EU. It captures the complexity of a country the size and an economy the size of the EU leaving the European Union, and tries to deal with a whole series of competing and complex questions to do with that. So instead of focusing on contingency after a failed vote in the House of Commons, I think we should be talking about how we talk this up to maximise the chances of it getting support in the House of Commons,
question 80 is a question C,
which is what the Prime Minister is doing.
So we'll be coming back to it. Question 7.